all this beer talk is making me incredibly thirsty.
Yeah.
So go ahead, let's crack open the Betty.
Yes, so I just want you to know, I'm excited, but I'm not going to be drinking.
Yes,
I
maybe a
didn't
different
want to
time.
Be offensive.
No offense.
Let's go 2.4 because we're Hangar
come on.
24.
Have to.
Just such a marketing
And
guy. It's so great. So
Have to.
cheers.
Cheers.
And let's try this. You would never know this is 2.4%. This is a fantastic IPA.
Thank you.
Well,
the guys did great.
done.
Yes. But I find myself like, dang, how did I get drunk? I promised God I'm not going to get drunk, and I get drunk the next week. I'm like, no, with no intention. Eric did this thing. He's like, well, why don't you take a break? Eric had me text him a thumbs up or a thumbs down every single day
Nice,
to
Eric.
say, did I have alcohol or not alcohol?
Well, welcome back to Maverick River. We're here in the studio today. I am very excited about this episode. As you guys know, this is called Conversations in the Wild. It's going to be a wild episode because my friend Ben Cook is here, and he is an adventurer, loves being out in the wild. But the reason we call it that is I believe men connect most when we're shoulder to shoulder out doing something, whether it's by a fire pit, out adventuring, surfing, you name it. We often connect in those kind of places rather than more just one-on-one in a coffee shop or something. But this podcast is for anyone and everyone, no matter where you're at. This is meant to ignite your heart for Jesus and be transformed. So if you're liking the content, I'd love for you to give us a great review and send this out. I also want to remind you, we have a new co-host, one of my dear friends, pastors, mentors, Mr. Eric Hurd. So we are here with my friend, Ben Cook. He is the founder and owner of Hangar 24. And of course, my favorite co-host, Mr. Eric Hurd. Welcome to the Maverick River podcast. Ben, so glad you're here. Are you ready for this?
No.
Well, great. It's going to be an awesome conversation. We're going to get all into the beer and all this. But first, let's tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in Southern California, and I went to Cal State San Bernardino as a biology major there, and just like a lot of people in college, like, what am I going to do with my life, you know? And most of the people were pre-med, and I knew that wasn't for me, and started home brewing, and just really fell in love with the process of making beer and gathering people around that, and also concurrently started learning to fly airplanes, and eventually that led to, hey, I could kind of combine all this and start a brewery, and with an aviation theme right at the airport, and kind of replicate that really cool process of kind of just hanging out and being social and gathering together, drinking good beer and adventuring together. So that ultimately led me down kind of a crazy journey and a wild path to meeting you two guys who have had such a huge impact on my life.
Well, thank God you met us.
We've transformed your lives.
Yes.
Through the power
Honestly.
of Jesus,
Of course, yeah.
Well, Ben, I've known you for years, and you have a very cool faith story. And we would love to hear, what was life before Jesus? And then what happened afterwards?
Yeah, so like on that brewery path, it's kind of wild. So open up the brewery, Hangar 24 in 2008. And my original goal is like, man, if I can just like pay my bills, like that was a win. If I get to hang out with my friends, do what I love and pay the bills, that's a win. But that was right before the craft beer boom hit. So Hangar 24 exploded. Several years we were the fastest growing brewery in the country. Wow. And it just became this behemoth of a company. But with that, like, I don't know what or who my God was, but it definitely wasn't Jesus. And so I just kind of bought in fully to the American dream, like make lots of money, date the beautiful women, do all, or get married and do the white picket fence, but it's all these things. And I started getting all of that and kind of living as the world said, like what success looked like lots of partying and dating around and just living foolishly. Yeah. And it just, it was wild times. Yeah.
And then tell us how you came to know Christ and then what changed.
Yeah. So I think at one point I'm literally living in Newport Beach. I have a house on the water in the harbor. I've got a 40-foot yacht sitting in front. I've got a small airplane, dating the people that I want to date. And I'm like, why do I have everything the world says that you should want? but I'm more miserable now than I've ever been in my whole life. And that was like super confusing. So I started searching for answers and asking questions. And I had a friend that said, hey, watch this message, you know, and started sending me messages from like Rick Warren and Saddleback, Kenton, Mariners, all these pastors around. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to go to church. I refuse to go to church, but I'm like, but this makes a lot of sense. Like God kind of started speaking to me that way. And I'm like, I kept living my lifestyle. And one day, you know, I was down in Mexico with a group of friends, and you know, we're halfway through this trip. We've got this beautiful condo overlooking the water, and just woke up, you know, another night, you know, I'm hungover, feel like trash. And I'm like, there's got to be more to life than this. Like, it feels like Groundhog Day. And I was like, would anyone be up for like going and checking out church? Like, there's got to be more to life than this. And we were a tight group of friends, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll go. But I'm like, I mean, like right now I'm done. I'm like, I'm done. And they're like, we got, you know, 4 more days left in Mexico. We're not going to leave. And then I actually had a buddy, Phil Morrison, was on that trip, and he's like, I'll go with you. I'm like, right now? He's like, right now. We packed our stuff and we left.
Wow.
And the next day we went to Rock Harbor in Costa Mesa, and the message was on, there's more to life than the American dream. And all, I thought my friend who was sending me messages somehow found out I was going to church and told them what to say. I literally thought that, like, I'm like, that was the most likely scenario.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, the other side was like, man, if that was real, if God's real, I want to know about it. And so I laid in bed for 2 weeks. I didn't go to work for 2 weeks. I read the Bible every day. I'm like, I want to know more. I'm like, if God's real, I want to know. I went to like every church I could that had weekday services. I went to like 3 different churches on Sundays, and ultimately I got to the point where like I'd learned and experienced enough of God where I said, I believe, you know. But I wanted to know more. I wanted to meet community. I wasn't meeting other people, and I was desperate for community. And I'm like, man, if I could choose any community, it'd be great to meet other businessmen, you know? And I just heard Mariners, there's lots of businessmen that go to Mariners Church. And so I said, it was New Year's, we did the Trans-Catalina Trail, Phil and I was like, I'm going to Mariners this Sunday, you know? And so I went, and Kenton gets on stage, and he's like, if you're looking for community, I'm like, it's happening again. You know what I mean? It's like, God, you know, this is just too crazy, where I'm like, this is what I need to hear. Then God just shows up. And so Kenton talked about Rooted. If you want to know God more and get into a relationship with him, and you're looking for Christian community, here's Rooted. So I signed up for that. And ultimately, that's where I gave my life to Jesus. And ultimately, how I met both of you was in that process. Eric baptized me.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it was
incredible. It in beer or what?
Yeah.
Wow. What, is that a dad joke right there?
I mean, maybe in beer.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
Would have been interesting.
So, yeah, that was a pretty radical thing going through Rooted, and it was beautiful. And I obviously met tons of other Christian businessmen through the men's ministry, and became good friends with both you guys. And Tim really kind of guided me into this group and made me feel like I was a part of this men's ministry, like from day one. It wasn't like them and then me, this outsider, is like, no, you're one of us, you know. And so that was really cool. Yeah, changed my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You said it's a few things in there that I want to kind of go a little bit deeper on.
Totally.
The story of kind of even studying biology and realizing like that normal career path for a biology major, although it ties to beer, brewing beer is definitely a science. But how did some of the story of your passion, and even some of the story you shared with me of walking into Budweiser and then even brewing in the Hangar, so give us a little more context for the story of Hangar 24 and Ben Cook.
Yeah, totally. So I was just a really passionate home brewer. I would bring my beers to school, and I get to use the lab instruments, and just really fell in love with the science of beer. Like I said, and like the gathering, getting everyone together to the gathering obviously is a blast too, but I love the making of the beer. A family friend, Mike Bernardi, who was in the beer industry, he said, man, your homebrew is like really good. You ever thought about being a brewer for a living? And that was at the time where I'm like, I didn't know what I wanted to be. And I'm like, oh man, you can get paid to do this? I didn't even like put 2 and 2 together. And so he introduced me to the head brewer of the Van Nuys Anheuser-Busch facility, which is one of like the biggest breweries on the planet. And yeah, and I just remember like opening these huge doors and walking in. I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm done. I didn't even talk to him yet. I'm like, this is what I want to do. And yeah, I ended up working there for a little bit. And they're like, any brewer worth their salt, goes to UC Davis Master Brewers Program. And so I immediately, signed up to that. Then graduated from UC Davis. The Master Brewers Program had like world-class professors. And then concurrently, again, like we'd meet at my friend Kit Palmer's hangar every Thursday. And that was like the hangar. Like anyone could show up to the airport, bring friends or family, and like we would find a seat in an airplane for you. And we'd all take off. It could be 3 planes, it could be 10 planes, but we had this like little ant farm of planes flying around, and we just enjoy aviation. We would land, and then I'd bring my home brews to Kit's hangar. We would barbecue. We had friends that played music, and everyone would kind of sing along. And his hangar is hangar number 24. And so I'm like, when I was thinking about like what I wanted my brewery to represent, I'm like, this is it. This experience is what I want to share, because everyone that comes there is like, this is so awesome. Like, go adventure, go do really cool things, and then come back and then just kind of like share the story. Like, how was that for you? Like, what did you guys do? And just kind of connect over food and beer. And ultimately, that's what we are today. We have 4 restaurants now: Riverside, Redlands, Irvine, and Lake Havasu, Arizona. And that Hangar 24 experience gets replicated, so people can come experiencing that without having to go to the airport.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I remember very distinctly when you kind of fully surrendered to Jesus. You went, like you said, as Eric asked, like this kind of wild living, party boy lifestyle, and just chasing after the things of this world. And then you were like, this isn't it, and kind of gave your life to Christ. You were having a hard time and asking some amazing questions, probably asked Eric, myself, and you are a curious, part of your gift of your leadership is you're a curious leader. You're always asking questions and how do I make this better? How do I become a better follower of Jesus and more like Christ? And you're like, I remember you asking something along the lines of, can I keep brewing beer and be a Christian? Like, does that work? Or do I need to sell the business and completely do something different? And you came to that decision. You began doing your own research. Talk a little bit about like this integration of brewing beer and being a follower of Jesus.
Yeah, that was immediately difficult. And I talked to both of you, but I specifically remember I talked to Eric, and you had always have the greatest answer. You said, it's like, alcohol is not a sin, but getting drunk is a sin. You know what I mean? And then money's not a sin, but greed is a sin. And so like all these things, like viewing things through God's eyes, So there was that conversation, and I'm like, I want to learn more about that. And so I'm like, who do I know that brews beer and is also a follower of Jesus? I'm like, oh, the monks. The monks have been brewing beer for a long time,
dude.
And so like, I'm like,
Chimay monks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was going to call them, so I was going to like, how cool! I'm going to call Chimay. Like, so I thought about that, and I'm like, but wait, is there anyone that's closer in the right time zone? Because I want to know immediately. I'm like, oh, they're all sleeping, but there's one brewery in the U.S. called Spencer Brewery in Massachusetts, and they closed recently, but so I called the trade organization, the Brewers Association. I said, hey, can you give me the contact for Spencer Brewery? And they're like, oh yeah, the brewmaster's name is Father Isaac. Nice. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah, the brewmaster's Father Isaac. So I called Father Isaac, and he sounds exactly like you want your brewer monk to sound like, just the joy of the Lord. Actually, he sounds just like you. And just so joyous, you know.
Call him Father Eric for the rest of the episode.
Father Eric.
Well, you'll become Father Cook now.
Right. So like he has so much joy and peace, and I asked him like, how do you reconcile following Jesus and producing alcohol that people can get drunk off of and make really poor decisions and sin and da. And he said, he's like, we don't get drunk. We limit ourselves to, we get one beer. We limit one beer with dinner, and that's all we drink. We don't drink any more than that. And they said also, this is a great evangelism tool. He's like, there's people that will walk into this monastery brewery that would never walk into a church, and we get to share Jesus with them. And he said, sometimes it's just with us, like we just have to like kind of be like, because we could tell they're uncomfortable even being in a monastery, where other people engage in conversations they would never have because they're either against the faith or have had a bad church experience. And so I'm like, that was really encouraging to hear. And so the story goes on from there. Like it's like, oh, cool, now everything's great. You know, it definitely was not that. You know, it wasn't this like immediate transformation. And ultimately, that led me to a path of burnout, of not even being able to reconcile those two worlds like the monks did. And I'm like, I get that this is not a sin, but why do I keep sinning? Why do I keep falling in this area? I see people falling in this area. I see Christians coming here and falling in this area. And so like it became clear at some point, but it wasn't immediate.
There's always been a tension there.
Totally.
Of how am I a brewer, business owner of 4 restaurants where bad decisions are happening as a result of your core product.
Yeah.
But yet how can we use this for the kingdom of God? And we'll talk more about where you are now with it. But you're an adventurer and you do all sorts of like ridiculously crazy stuff. Sailing, flying small planes, and even I love that's one of the taglines of Hangar 24, adventures we share, which like you've kind of let in. It began of guys and gals in community in a hangar being together, flying, and then barbecuing and drinking beer. But like, talk about some of the, like, you're just this natural adventure and how you at one point you just took off and on mission and on a sailboat. But also one of the things I do want you to share, because I think it's cool to hear, is the time that you were on a plane that it didn't go so well.
Yeah.
So talk about some of that stuff, some of the adventures and the crazy stuff that you've done.
For sure. I find a lot of peace in like kind of just being who God built us to be. And like part of how God knit me together is like the curiosity and exploring. And that gets lived out through a lot of adventurous stuff. So like learning to fly airplanes. And while I was learning to fly, I actually bought a super cheap 1946 aircraft and was restoring it. And it was like 2 or 3 years into the restoration process, and I had a mechanic guiding me. And he would say, do this, then I'd do that. Then he would check it. Okay, now do this. And because I couldn't afford an airplane. So this is the way I could afford it. And it was super cool. I was about 10 hours into my license and it was time to adjust the compass. And you couldn't do that at our airport. We had to go a different one. So he's like, okay, let's fly over there and adjust it. Well, me and him get in the plane because I didn't have my pilot's license. He's been flying his whole life. We get in the plane and we're going down the runway and I'm like, I'm only 10 hours in my license. We're like, this doesn't seem right. And he's like, oh, that's fine. You know, we go further down the runway. We're still not off the ground. I'm like, this can't be good. He's like, no, it's fine. And I just like, okay, you know, I don't know anything. But eventually like we used almost the whole runway, like jets were off the ground by then, you know what I mean? On the small municipal airport, we take off and, he's like, okay, something's wrong. I'm like, oh shit, well, could have, stopped back there a couple times.
You learned that in the air.
Yeah, we were off the ground. We barely cleared the 6-foot fence leaving the airport property. The planes were at full power. The plane gets to 100 and something feet at full power, and then all of a sudden now it's no longer climbing, and we're at full power. We're like, oh, this is not going to be good. So we can't make it back to the runway. If we stay on that, we're okay. But then it started descending at full power. We're like, oh, we're going down. If we maintain course, we would hit power lines. So eventually, he turned the plane to the right to go land on a construction site. He got slow, plus some other conditions, and he ended up stalling the aircraft, which essentially means the plane falls out of the sky. So the plane fell out of the sky. I'm now 100 feet in the air looking straight at the ground. We go straight into the ground. My face hits the panel. His chin hits. We're both knocked unconscious. I wake up covered in head to toe in literally blood and aviation fuel with complete amnesia. So I get out and call my dad and I'm like, we're in a plane crash. I didn't even know it was my dad. I just called the last number and he's like, how do you know? I'm like, I don't know. There's a crashed plane in front of me, but that's all I got. Where are you? I was like, no idea. Where are we going? I have no idea. Meanwhile, like blood just pouring out of my face. Come to find out, my nose was ripped off my face, and this was the only skin holding it on. But I was so out of it, I didn't realize that. The door handle went through his bicep and flayed it like a steak. And then eventually I had a friend take off right after us who had already called the ambulance. And so we saw an ambulance showing up. So we had to like slide down a cliff to get to him. And the EMT, I remember him looking at us like he later told me, he's like, you guys look like zombies walking at me. Jeez. Just blood and just mangled flesh everywhere. And
you're just not holding back with the graphic.
Yeah, no. Can you get a little bit
I keep seeing Eric's face. Like, do we need like a rated for this episode? But it's pretty gory. I like it.
It's not for under 18.
Yeah, under 18.
It was bad. It was bad. I mean, we should, by all statistics, we should have died.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And they, stitched everything and halfway to the hospital, all my memory came back up to the nose, kissing the ground. And God spared me in that moment, and I wish I would have said, oh, then I found Jesus because of this. Like, I almost died. But I went the exact opposite direction. I'm like, if I can die at any moment, I'm going to live every day like it's my last. The whole YOLO, that was a big, you only live once. And so I'm like, well, if I can only live once, I want to experience it all. I want to do it all. So essentially I just like live. Now my life became supercharged for me. So there was that experience. Maybe I'm talking too much at this point, but all right.
Let her rip.
All right. So
but
then
no more like really graphic, gory parts. Like you can just edit
intense.
that. Yeah.
Well, that was the only one. All right. Less graphic. Got it. So adventure has been a big part of my life. And even that, like, I'm like, do I keep flying? Do I give this up? And like, it's such a part of me. I was back in the air 2 weeks after that. Wow. And ended up finishing my pilot's license. I'm like, I'm not going to let fear defeat me, and still fly. So like hiking, like anything outdoors, anything new is like just been always really exciting to me. And, as the brewery grew, we're this big brewery, none of it was fulfilling anymore. And I'm seeing it have a negative impact on people's lives and I'm not happy. I'm like, something's got to change. That's ultimately led me to faith. Then made a 180 and I'm trying to reconcile these worlds and, going to men's ministry stuff, everything, being a part of it, leading Rooted and other men's studies. And, but like my brewery world, like the distributors, the retailers, they all still want to go out and get drunk every night and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And like that, I'm like, I didn't want a part of that. And then sometimes I would fall into that. Like, it's easy to like, I'm going to take it easy. And then all of a sudden you're having a great time. It's easy to then push it too far. And so like the things of the brewery just kept making me more miserable, and then the craft beer boom like died off and like craft beer started going down. Our restaurants became more successful. So like, I'm like, everything in this realm of my life is like, makes me feel like death. And the more I get of Jesus and the more I hang out with my friends who are following and chasing after Jesus, the more mentors I talk to in this realm, like that brings me life. I want more of this and less of this.
Right.
And then I remember at one point, I had Christafari's like, hey, can we play your, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I can kind of test this out, blending the two. And then I saw Christians, some couple guys get drunk during Christafari. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to facilitate people going down this path that I know is not good. And God hadn't given me the vision of how to make that happen. And, so I'm like, I need to, I met with Jim Franklin and you guys, and I met with people to like, I'm like, everyone's saying, use this as ministry, give it a chance. And then eventually like, hey, set a deadline. And if by this deadline, things aren't looking better, then sell it or get rid of it, hire a CEO, do something. Yeah. And so I reached that point and I got to that deadline. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to hire a CEO. And so I started interviewing CEOs. Ultimately, my brother was a successful CEO of his own business, and he's like, and he'd sold that to private equity and kind of was retired. It's like, he's like, I'll have a go. And so he took it, took over the reins, and I'm like, I'm just going to chase Jesus with everything I have. And leaning into like who he built me, I was like, I had this, he put this vision of like buy a sailboat, sail around the world. And like, so it for sure is fun and it's adventurous. But like the primary purpose was go experience Jesus in different cultural contexts to get to know him more and then share with people what I learn along the way. Yeah. And then these various ministries that I encounter or not, like if there's people, there's suffering happen, if I can somehow bless that in somewhere or show God's love in that, then have like to do that. And so that's what I did. So I bought a sailboat, and there's a whole crazy story behind that. I was looking at sailboats all over the place, and I fell in love with a certain make and model, and I couldn't find one. There was one left, and it was in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And I already knew I was going to call, I was going to YouTube the whole thing. That was how I was going to share it with the world, and I was going to call it Sailing Psalms. I already got the website and all that stuff long before I knew this boat existed. And as I'm flying down to this boat, they send me the sales contracts, like, review this on your flight down, just so like if you like it, we can move quickly. And the name of the boat, I didn't even like pay attention, because I'm going to change the boat name to Psalms. And it says Selah. And I'm like, that's weird. I mean, I'd read the Bible, but I'm like, I didn't recognize the word. And so I'm like, I Google it. What does Selah mean? It's like, oh, Selah is used exclusively in the Christian Bible and appears like 99% of the times in the book of Psalms. And I'm like, that's crazy. And then I get to the boat, and like written in the concrete is my name was like written into the concrete in front of the boat on top of that. And then I walk onto the boat, and there's
What
a
do you
figure.
mean your name, like it said
Like
Ben?
when they built the Puerto Vallarta Marina and they poured that concrete, someone wrote Benji, which is what my family calls me, in the concrete.
Okay, I hadn't even heard that.
I don't know if I've heard that part.
That's so cool.
And in this is a huge marina, and every dock, my gate card, the gate card for each dock, you can only get on that like sliver of the dock.
Right.
And this one only had 5 boats on it, and like is 2 steps outside of where you have to swipe that is written my name in the concrete. It is crazy. And then I walk onto the boat, and there's a little figurine, and on the sails, figurine of a sailboat, and on the sails says, "A man who follows God always gets to his destination." I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Wow.
And now, especially what I know after sailing around the world for 5 years, the sailing community is not usually a Jesus following community. They're free birds, and they're out doing all sorts of things, and lots of wonderful people, but it's typically not a Jesus following culture. So anyways, set out sailing around the world, and like, in Puerto Vallarta, in Mexico for a couple of years, came up to Newport, all the way down the full country of Mexico to Guatemala. Guatemala did 23-day Pacific crossing to the Marquesas. The Marquesas, the Tuamotus, and then Tahiti, where the boat is now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always loved about you is when we say adventure, it's not just a word; it's how you live your life. And I love this tension, because when you come to know Christ, a lot of people think everything becomes clear, and you really find out who you are and what He wants you to do. And you're a better example of the fact you gotta pursue it, and it's not easy. But boy, when you find it, and like to hear like where your present, mission is, and your passion now to glorify God through Hangar 24. Tell us a little bit of that. You've been doing the sailing and thing, but now you've bought back into Hangar 24. Tell us that.
Yeah. So it's was doing the sailing thing, and like even just learning how to share Jesus with people, like handing out Bibles wherever I could. That people would give me Bibles in their native language, then handing those out, and then learning how to share. So like the deepest part of my heart is to, like, I wish I knew Jesus sooner is one of my things. And I know it's all in God's timing, but still, I wish I knew Jesus sooner. I could have avoided a lot of pain for myself and pain I've caused others. And just, you guys know, it's a beautiful thing to follow Jesus. And so, while sailing around the world, I did that at every possible chance I could get. And then my brother gave me a year heads up. He's like, hey, I'm kind of done running Hangar 24. He had his fill.
More than he bargained for.
It's I got his own reasons and everything, and he wanted to get back and spend more time with his kids and his wife, and so I had a year notice, and so, but it's coming back into my hands fully, and I'm like, God, I don't want that. Like, and one of the struggles I found with sharing God's heart, and even like working with churches, I'm like, hey, Church X, like I can build you like a $10,000 website. I'll just do it. Like, I just give me the people and like do this. And it's like, Fred's been working on the website for 3 years. It's like, I come to find all these like inner politics of churches that like were preventing me from being able to even do good. You have to build trust, which takes time and all these things. And now God's putting this resource back in my hands where I have ultimate influence, and I can make decisions. And so I'm like, God, what do you want me to do with this? Do you want me to sell it? Because I don't want to go back to that life anymore. I don't even want to have to live the lifestyle to make that type of business work. Or do you want me to do something with it? And it was clear. It's like, no, your mission hasn't changed. Your purpose, everything you do in the last 5 years, this is just a part of that. It's just a different expression of the same mission. And so I just started praying, God, what does that look like? And talking to wise counsel and like, how do I live this out? And like, I don't want to just be this, I'm a business owner that like, hey, oh man, he's such a nice guy. Why? Geez. And that is great. And I think some people maybe are called that. I'm like, I only want to do it like if I can be super explicit. I want to be able to talk about Jesus. I don't want to have to change my life to fit within this mold. Like this mold's got to fit, or, you know, I don't know, that's not the right terminology, but I'm just like, I'm just not going to change. I'm not going to change.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep pursuing Jesus with everything I have and keep talking about him. So that's what I did. I just didn't change. And I bring up scripture like almost every day. I talk about my faith and I say, this is what I believe and here's why. And, you know, there's things that are like under, you know, in process right now that we're talking about doing that haven't come to fruition yet. It's I'm not sure what I can even share at this point yet. Cause like where I'm actually have like legal people, doing some things within the business so that I want this to be the best place people work, whether they believe in Jesus or not. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it to be very clear is like, this is why it's the best place. And we're not the best place to work right now, right? Like every organization has its stuff and we have our stuff. And I want people to feel comfortable whether they believe or not. And but they're very like tangible things. I want people to feel God's love in a very tangible way, inside the company and outside the company, you know, and how we love our communities.
Well, it's evident that, you look at your walk with Jesus and it's way deeper today. And you and I had a conversation early on when I met you and you talked about Hangar 24. And, for a lot of business executives, they'll say, man, it must be great, Eric, to work at a church and to work for God. And I look at them and go, and you don't? See, something becomes sacred because you bring God into the midst of it.
Yeah.
And I think at this stage in your life, it's the perfect time where your faith is deep. You've learned a lot of lessons. Yeah. You have some regrets and decisions you made,
for sure,
but you wouldn't be the person you are without those bad decisions.
Very true.
And so this is where I get excited about you today and coming back into Hangar 24, because you're a way more mature person. You're way wiser. And so it's going to be an exciting journey that you're now on, coming back.
Yeah, it's been exciting already and interesting, and it's like because I even have like our HR attorney said, you aren't allowed to talk about Jesus, and I go on ChatGPT, I'm like, that's not true, and so I fired back at him, and they even sent me a letter like that. Hey, you're not supposed to talk about your faith and and it's just like not true. So it's like, and then my whole life I grew up like, oh, you keep politics and religion and things, all these things separate. But I think that's how this world ended up in this mess that we're in now, is because people stopped talking. It's like, you don't have to agree with me.
Yep.
But like I want to know what you believe and why you believe it. Like ultimately, like Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. You know what I mean? So like he doesn't need a defense. It's just if you're seeking the truth, you'll find it.
That's it.
You know what I mean? And so I encourage people I'm like, just tell the truth. Like, what are you experiencing right now? What do you believe? Like, let's talk about it. Like I'm not going to judge you. Don't judge me. And so anyways, yeah, I think it's been a very unique thing coming back that I've not experienced. And it's so different. I view it so differently, and I just hold the business with open hands. Like, this is God's business. It's not my business.
Yeah.
It's his business, and he's letting me steward it. And I could just like retire and be done and go sail and enjoy the South Pacific. You know what I mean? So it's like a choice every day. And some days, trust me, I'm like, screw this place,
No doubt.
I'm like, why am I doing this? But it's for Jesus. It's to glorify him. And it's like, he's put this on my heart and this purpose. And like, I get the opportunity to help people to know sooner.
That's it.
So
you look at Chick-fil-A, you look at In-N-Out Burger, and what's going to be different about Hangar 24 now that this mature Ben is coming into it, wants to represent Jesus, make it a sacred beer brewing company?
Yeah.
What's going to be different?
All right. So it's a good question. And they're like very tangible things. So like Tim introduced me to a company, Escalante, who owns a bunch of golf courses, and they do a 1 hour Bible study volunteer Bible study with their whole leadership team for 1 hour from 8 to 9
day.
every single day.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. So Tim connected me with them, and I got to attend that with my COO, who built the company with phase one and was living similar to me. And we disconnected for that whole time, and he came to Christ on his own also, independently of me, and had nothing to do with me. Yeah. And now God brought us back together, and we're getting to do this again together. And so he's kind of like the person I get to share these things with, like, hey, I would love to start a Bible study for the staff. Like, what do you think? But completely voluntary, only people that want to, and zero pressure, zero coercion. So like things like that. There's also, we're just about to spin up a charity effort where like you could, like, a church could say, hey, we're the sponsoring church for this day, or not sponsoring, but the partner for this day, and we'll donate a certain percentage of our straight revenue to them for that day. There's various efforts, like, let's think. We have beers that were coming out that, like, there's biblical stories and biblical principles on them that are launching later this month. So like there's just like In-N-Out where there's Bible verses on it.
Yep.
And then there's a biblical principle that's like, if you read that, you're like, that's a really good principle, and you're not sure, but then you see the Bible verse and you can link the two together. So it's like, again, not being preachy, but also not hiding from it. It's not like hidden in a corner. You know what I mean? It's like not preachy, but like it's obvious where this is coming from. And so my plan is to have God's love shown in every area of the business. So I just recently hired a new HR company who they're believers, and for the last 6 years they've done it exclusively churches and ministries, and they just started a for-profit division, and they're going to help us like love our staff the way Jesus did, through policy, and how we promote people, how we lean into them and train them, again, without like forcing anything. So it's like it's going to be an interesting season of the business. Like I have not even talked to the business about this yet. Yeah. So there's only a few people know, but I mean it's also obvious. Like no, they're not going to be like, oh, where did that come from? Like, yeah, we saw this coming. But the idea is the way that we're going to approach this is making sure that they feel safe. Like right from this transformation, it's safe. It's not like, oh, if you don't believe, then you're out. No. Or if it's like, or you're not going to fit in. Like, no, we want this. Like, even if you don't believe, this should still be the best company.
That's it
for you. And so there's going to be a lot of expressions like the Bible studies, partnering, like my desires to partner with churches. Like, how can we be like the intersection of the secular world and churches? And like, how can we bridge that people that won't walk into a church or maybe won't even talk to a pastor, but they'll come to a brewery and there has to be a pastor sitting there, like, so these conversations can happen. Again, not with pressure or coercion, just like discussions can be had, and people can explore. And even bringing in worship leaders to lead worship on Sundays at the breweries. There's so many different ways, and we've got this big list of expressions that we're prioritizing and implementing. But before we can like lean in too heavy, if we just start leaning into that, it's going to freak, I think, a lot of employees out. It's going to make them feel unsafe because they're going to think there's coercion or pressure and stuff, and it's just not the case. So we're being intentional, like honoring God, even in the process of being explicit, even though every ounce of me wants to just like shout it, and it's hard, and I'm probably even moving too fast now, but I'm trying to pray and be wise and intentional and love my staff the best that I can in the process.
Well, and the timing of this, Ben, is so cool, because right now in America, and certainly as we're seeing in Orange County, there is just a hunger people are having for that deeper meaning, much like you were struggling. Here you got Hangar 24, you're living the life the world says is so great. Well, I think that's something across the board right now, is that there's a hunger, especially in this upcoming generation, for meaning and purpose and community. We just got through that. Remember we had the pandemic?
Yes. Yeah. Remember that?
People are still hungry for community.
Yes. Right.
And so it's really exciting that Hangar 24 is rising up in a different way to meet people's spiritual needs.
Yes, I'm excited to get to just be a part of what God's doing, like through Mariners Church and through all the local churches, and just I just picture it as like this huge river is going down, and like I get to just put my foot in, I get to be a part, or hop on a tube and go with it, and it's exciting. I could even see like maybe like hosting Rooted or Alpha or something like that, like at Hangar 24, and I'm excited to be a part of what God's doing.
You bet.
Yeah.
So kind of recapping, because I think it's worth noting. So Hangar was crushing it, and you were doing there in that process. There was conversion into Jesus, but there was still massive burnout, and even trying to reconcile, how do I live out my faith while holding this? But ultimately there was just a burnout to where it's like, I just want to hand this off. Your brother stepped in and you went full missionary. I'm going to go sail around the world and tell everybody that in every port about Jesus. And that was a 5-year kind of adventure, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, yeah.
Ultimately leading into about a year ago, where it's like, okay, it's time to step back into Hangar, which you were reluctant and even hesitant to step back into a world that you kind of were ready to be done with. And then Hangar 24 2.0, way more slowly, but outward facing. We're going to glorify God in every bit of this business.
Yeah.
We're going to honor him. And you and I've had conversations of how do we do that both internally from an organizational perspective, but then even like outwardly with the daily bread, beer, and the Bible verses and a biblical principle. And all these little ways, and some of which I don't even think you know how God will begin to these different expressions. But one of the things we hung out about a week or so ago, and whether this is tied from any sort of biblical perspective or just something I think is fun to talk about,
Right.
is beer.
Yeah.
But the beer that you had me try last week, and we're gonna crack one open in a minute, because it's just, I'm like, what in the world is this mid-strength beer?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we call it, mid-strength? Yep. And you even said, hey, in 6 months you're gonna see every brewery is going to have a mid-strength beer, because NAs, non-alcoholics, have massively risen. Beer sales are down, but all of a sudden there's this mid-strength beer, a 2% beer that doesn't taste like garbage.
Yes.
Let's talk about mid-strength.
Yes. Yeah. I'm really excited about it. So part of it is like, man, I love sitting and having beers with my friends. And, you know, if you go to dinner, you have one IPA, it's no big deal. But if like you sit and drink 4 IPAs over a couple hours, like, you're drunk. Yeah, you're cooked. And it's and so like but I like the flavor, and I've drank some of the non-alcoholic beers, and like even the most world-class non-alcoholic beer is like not that great. They're good. They're really good. And I don't want to, it's just my preference. It's not there for me. And so I'm like, there's gotta be a better solution. And so again, like with every problem I've had over the last years, since I came to Christ, and especially like one of the skills I learned is like, well, what does Scripture have to say about this? Like, what does God have to say about this? And it's like, okay, again, alcohol's not bad. Don't get drunk. Okay. Well, I love the taste of IPAs. How do I make an IPA that I'm not going to get drunk, but doesn't taste like trash? And also alcohol in itself, it helps you relax. And there is a social connectedness to it. And there's a really cool article that came out that like non-alcohol, you miss some of that social bonding. The science is still trying to figure that out. They're saying like when you drink alcohol, it's actually you're putting yourself in a slightly vulnerable state, and it's a sign of like, I trust you, you trust me. Like there's some they're figuring out, they're like, why is it a social lubricant beyond like there's a difference, not just intoxicating, just a little bit, like what is that? And there's something to it. And so ultimately, anyways, without going into like too nerd on you, but the solution was like, what would it 2.4%, Hangar 24. So like we want to be around 2-3, but I want to make it so like your body can essentially digest the alcohol as fast as you're drinking it. So it's like nearly impossible to get drunk. And so we're like, 2 point, that's close. Let's do it. Let's see what it tastes like. So we brewed orange wheat, a lager that we ultimately called Daily Bread, and Betty IPA, but 2.4%. And that was the brewers crushed it. And it wasn't easy. It's not like you just lowered the ingredients, or it's like, it's an art to do what they do.
No doubt.
And they produce these beers and they taste delicious. And yeah, we sit there and like you drink them, and then afterward you're not drunk, and the next day you have no hangover. There's nothing to it, but there's still this like social connectedness to it. And you get a little bit of that like just chill effect from it without all the negatives. And so, yeah, we're excited. And I kind of independently came up with that on my own. And then as I'm talking to the branding agency to come up with the graphics for it, he's like, we have several other breweries that came to that same exact conclusion.
Wow.
And then now like there's a company that went on Shark Tank, I guess, talking about mid-strength. It's Dad's something or other, Dad's Strength or something. So clearly society, there was a need for this. And like, I think it's a great solution to having delicious beer and honoring God in the process.
So I got to tell you, all this beer talk is making me incredibly thirsty.
Yeah.
And so I want to try this new 2.4, and I think especially, I know you have the lager, you have the hazy, or no, orange wheat.
Yep.
And then you have the Betty IPA, but like, I want to see for myself, and you tell me about a little bit of, so go ahead, let's crack open the Betty.
But before you do, because I would never want to be offensive.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So, there's a verse in James 4:17. It says, "To him who knows the right thing to do, and he does not do it, to him it is sin." Mm-hmm. I was entering into January, and my son goes, "Hey, how would you like to join me? No alcohol for the month of January."
Okay.
And not only have we been doing that, but we're now going to April because that's my 70th birthday.
Oh, wow.
So I would be joining you.
Yes.
But I'm not, because I made a commitment.
For a really good reason.
Yeah. But I wanted to say something to you that in the nature of wine, or again, this less alcohol thing just excites me. Yeah. Because the idea that people aren't going to get in a car and hurt themselves or somebody else, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And so I love what you're doing. And something that we had talked about years ago that I just got reminded of in my mind was God prepared you a lifetime for what you're about to do right now. Mm. You couldn't do what you're doing right now if you didn't have all the successes and failures along the way. So I just want you to know, I'm excited, but I'm not going to be drinking today.
Well, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Maybe a different time.
Be offensive.
No offense. No offense.
What I love about that though, Eric, is it's not just a commitment that you've made to just go dry January for, but it's like you're honoring your son, and it just shows the kind of father you are. But it's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry you won't get to try it. And it might not be good. We'll see.
I will vicariously be living through you guys.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's try the Betty.
How delicious it is. All right.
What you want?
Nope. Orange wheat. Here we go. This is this is our Betty IPA, which is kind of a famous brand for Hangar 24, and 2.4% alcohol.
On an IPA. And the normal IPA is what, 6 or 7?
Yeah, I mean 6 to 7.5. Like we do have a new beer coming out called Warfighter that is 7. So we do have full strength still.
Got it.
But this is
so how extensive was the process, and how long did it take to take a beer, a normal IPA, let's say 7%, moving into 2.4. And by the way, I love that, of course, you didn't stick with just 2%. It's like, let's go 2.4 because we're Hangar 24.
Have to.
Just such a marketing guy. It's so great. So
have to.
Cheers. And let's try this.
And you immediately smell it, right? Like
I can smell it from here.
Yeah.
Wow.
You would never know. This is 2.4%. This is a fantastic IPA.
Thank you.
Well,
the guys did great.
Done.
Yes.
How I know that you're more involved in the business side of things. How involved are you in the brewing side of things at this point?
So I get what's fun, and part of the success that's a benefit is I get to just do the fun part now. So we'll essentially meet in a room. We'll have our brewing team in there. We'll decide on, hey, we want to make a 2.4% alcohol IPA. And then the guys start rattling off, oh, I envision it this way. I envision it this way. And they kind of brainstorm the ingredients and the process, temperatures. And then we come to agreement. They write out the recipe, and then one of them will take it and go brew it. And then we'll do several iterations. So yeah, it took months. Wow. I mean, months and months on the pilot system, and then you scale it up to the big system, because then there's always a little bit of change from there. And then you make tweaks. And ultimately, that's how we landed at this. Even getting the mouthfeel right, because alcohol itself has flavor and mouthfeel. And so to get that right, there's a lot of changes that had to be made to like what malts we're putting in there, what malts we're leaving out, the temperatures. And like a lot of times when you do this, where they're this low, there's no mouthfeel. It's like thin.
So that's part of the reason that an NA beer wouldn't have that same taste.
Yeah, you can't.
The taste is removed.
Yeah, because alcohol itself has taste. So this gives you, I think, enough of that, where you get the flavor of alcohol in it, and then through the brewers being good at what they do, they're able to get the mouthfeel dialed and the aroma. I mean, like, yeah, you know, obviously drank a lot of IPAs in my life. I know you had your share. And I don't know, it's delicious, right? I mean, what do you think? I mean, like, you can't tell that it's not 6-7%.
Not at all. Like, you can't tell. But different than, like, so this is still 2.4, but it's not like low cal, because you were saying in the science part, you can't have this kind of flavor and have a low cal. You can't have it all.
No.
So there's still tons of flavor. And if you were to get this, the calorie down under like some of the Michelob Ultra and Bud Light and all that, the flavor would go.
It's impossible. That's why Mick Ultra has the calories, because it's water. It's pretty much water with a little alcohol in it. So yeah, this isn't something, it's not like a diet drink, but also at the same time, like, beer is, from like an ingredient standpoint, you got barley, sometimes wheat and other like whole grains. You have hops that are all grown in the Pacific Northwest. All of our grains are grown in the Midwest. Local water that's run through various filters, and then yeast, and that's it. So like, it's a very pure, like, whole foods kind of beverage. You know what I mean? And so you can compare it to bread. That's why one of them's called, part of the reason one of them's called daily bread is like the people call it liquid bread over the years. Yeah. So a lot of times that's how even beer, they think, might have been discovered. They had bread and it was like sitting in a pot, and it rained, it got water, yeast got in there and now there's beer. So it's missing hops, text.
One thing you haven't done is really researched how many of the great theologians drank beer.
Yeah.
I actually am serious.
Yeah.
Wine
Didn't
or
Spurgeon
beer,
drink whiskey or something?
yes, and but it's a fascinating thing that was a normal social thing that they would drink together, and it really encouraged community.
Yes.
And and again, the drunkenness thing, I mean, Scripture's very, very clear.
Super clear.
I mean, Eric, as you said that, I think of J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, who, if you don't know the story of C.S. Lewis, outwardly non-believer. J.R.R. Tolkien, big-time believer, wrote The Lord of the Rings. Both these guys, massively imagination, creativity. Narnia and Lord of the Rings came out of those two brains. But they used to spend time at a pub, I can't remember the name, in like Oxford, I believe it was.
There was the Holy Men of Oxford.
Yeah,
and they
Holy Men of
drank
Oxford.
together, and they smoked together.
They smoked pipes, drank together, and then over time, I think J.R. Tolkien was responsible for C.S. Lewis kind of coming to faith.
Yeah.
And then now we have the Narnia series, and then obviously tons of amazing books out of C.S. Lewis. Yeah. So beer was a part of that, because they spent hours talking in that pub.
See, I'm surprised J. Warner Wallace, who was our last podcast, didn't have that chart, because Christians have influenced every aspect of culture, that he didn't have a chart on the brewmasters that were Christians.
Right? Yeah, we should probably ask for him to.
I doubt he'll do that together. Just a thought.
Yeah, it's cool. And I mean, and that's one of the things, like, through my, like, like, one of the times I got, well, not one of the times, but like, I would, like, kept falling, and like, I went to Eric and I was like, hey, what do I do about this? Like, I love going out and having drinks with my friends, but I find myself like, dang, how did I get drunk? I promised God I'm not going to get drunk, and I get drunk the next week. I'm like, no, with no intention, Eric. So Eric did this thing. He's like, well, why don't you take a break and just see how that goes? And he said, and I was like, how long? And he challenged me to 6 months. I'm like, whoo, and I'm like running a brewery. I'm like, all right. And Eric had me text him a thumbs up or a thumbs down every single day to say, did I have alcohol or not alcohol? And for me, for whatever reason, it's easy not, like, I don't like it easy not to. It's like, but I learned a ton about myself, and then going out and what it's like, and like living without it helps you also to see like the bad parts of it and the good parts of it. It helps like it helps dissect it, and part of it is like, man, that social aspect, like you're saying, is so important. And if you can go out and not drink alcohol, obviously that there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't think anyone's better or worse, but I don't know. It's such a, hey, let's go meet up for a beer. Like, it says something, and it's different. You say, hey, let's meet for a coffee, or even let's meet for a cocktail, or meet for dinner. When you say, let's meet for a beer, I mean, that communicates instantly. Let's just be real with each other. Let's just sit and be with each other. Like,
that's interesting.
Saying let's sit for a beer is saying something very specific, and people know what it means, So yeah, it's I mean, even through the last year, I was like, God, are you sure? Are you sure? Like, because like he put one of the verses he put on is, don't use the Lord's name in vain. So I went into a deep dive into what that means, and I'm like, God, I don't want to carry your name poorly. Like, before I put this Bible verse on, are you sure I should be putting this Bible verse on a beer? Yeah. Like, and people for sure are going to use this to sin, this beer. Like that's going to happen somewhere. And so like that, I struggled even within that. And so like I'm trying to be very prayerful and intentional with what we do, but it's still again this thing that like. I think that the plan is for people to gather around the table just like C.S. Lewis did and have these conversations.
Well, and again, something sacred because you bring God into the midst of it.
Yeah.
So you remember the issue of they eating meat that had been sacrificed for idols? Oh, something has value because you give it value.
Right.
And the idea that you would use wine or beer as a social entity, yeah, why not? Yeah. And but like for me, I love in 1 Corinthians where it says, all things are lawful, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful, but I will not be mastered by anything.
Yeah.
And like for me, I love those times in which like I went 25 years without ever drinking when I was a youth pastor because it was easier to tell students I didn't drink than to try to give some reason and explain why I did. I came to Mariners and I had all these friends that had wine cellars and it was a very social thing. And so I began to do that. Yeah. But then there would be times I would get off of it. It's kind of like fasting where I didn't want, like Paul said in 1 Corinthians 9, he says, I buffet my body and I make it my slave. Yeah, I don't want anything mastering me. And but on the other hand, I don't want to be in that position where I go, well, it's evil. Alcohol is evil. No, it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like adding to that, like one of the, I mean, I like within the 5-year gap, I mean, like I really don't care about alcohol.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing. Like if I got a clear word, like no more, it would take, I'd actually prefer it. But like instead, it's like, no, this is one of many gifts that we get to experience in the world. I want you to have self-control. Yeah. Like I want to know moderation, you know what I mean? And so like, there's this thing where it's like, oh yeah, perfect abstinence is easier than perfect moderation. And so like, I even lean into that. And like, so like, I've even had my own battle within that. And so now I'm very intentional whenever I drink alcohol and that was part of what led to this 2.4% alcohol beer is like, this makes it easier. Like the windows is much wider. It's like, you could have probably 4 of these. Maybe you could even have 6 of these within a certain period of time and still not get drunk. But you do that with a 10% double IPA, like
forget it.
Your window, your margin of error is very small.
Right.
And so, that's kind of where I landed. It's like, cause it'd be easy. I think what Kenton said once, he's like, oh yeah, you want to, have all this peace, like be like one of these monks. Like, yeah, it's easy to be a monk. You're hidden in a corner. You have no temptation whatsoever. You have no, you know what I mean? And so it's like, as believers, I think we're called to be, like for sure run from certain temptation. And I think some people for sure should avoid alcohol under any scenario. There's people that like, that's their thing. But like,
sure. I
think what I heard from me specifically was like, no, enjoy this gift, but have self-control. Like honor God within all of this. And then it's not just this, that translates to every area of life. Like don't lose, like how I lead, how I go into my friendships. And so it's like those lessons carry over everywhere.
You bet.
Yeah. I mean, so much of what you're saying and the journey you've been on is integration of faith.
Yeah.
We don't need to compartmentalize. And so often, Eric, I know you were the men's pastor for years before me. You work with men now as well as I do, but I just hear so often men often compartmentalize their life.
Yeah.
They live one way, maybe on a Friday night at a bar that looks very differently on Sunday morning with their family, or even the way they conduct themselves in the business 9 to 5 looks very different than the way that they show up at their men's group or whatever it else. And you've had to learn, how do I integrate all of this?
Yeah.
Glorify God. And it is harder in your line of work because it's beer. But like now in Hangar 24, I keep saying 2.0, it's like you're more integrated personally in your walk with Jesus.
Yeah. And
so your business is going to begin to reflect a fully integrated business, even if alcohol is served. But you also have amazing food.
Yeah.
You're more a restaurant than a distributor, if I'm not mistaken. And so, guys, if you're listening, or anyone who's listening, go eat at Hangar 24. The
so
food
good.
is awesome.
So good.
And even in the Redlands location, now you got this food truck that's permanent, so there's always going to be food.
Yep.
But I'm lucky to live by the Irvine location, and the food is awesome. Love the burgers. But a more integrated business is a reflection of a more integrated man who you've become. You're no longer having to silo, I'm a brewer or I'm walking with Jesus. And that's some of the tension that you shared as part of your life, and going from, brewer Ben pre-Jesus to after, and just that tension that you've held. It's like little by little. And I bet in a year from now and 2 years from now, we're going to see a way more integrated Hangar 24, where no one really is at this point with In-N-Out Burger really questioning if the founders were believers. Right. It's not a secret. And so same Chick-fil-A as well. And people even call it Jesus Chicken and all that. So I don't know if it'll get that like loud, but I do think we're going to see your business, because of your heart and this integrated man following Jesus, fully surrendered and obedient to Christ. Like, even your prayerful decision to go, God, should I even put this verse on a label of a beer? Yeah. Is that honoring to you? Is that dishonoring to you? It just shows your heart to reflect Jesus and to show Jesus. And so I'm really thrilled at this new season that you're in and what God's doing. And well done on this amazing mid-strength beer. Even pioneering this, beer trend, I think is really fun to see. And I even think of, one of the staple verses of Maverick River and the ministry we do is Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will know God's good, pleasing, and perfect will. That's kind of been the story of this.
Yeah.
No more conforming to this world. We're gonna conform to Jesus, and we're gonna use it for His glory, and we're gonna look for His good, pleasing, and perfect will through the process of this. So we're proud of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, thank you.
What a great
part of the
podcast.
story.
And what a guy to have.
Yes.
We ought to do the podcast in a year and see where it's at.
Oh, we will. We'll have him back.
Okay.
Yeah. Eventually the beer will be like 1.5%.
And I might be able to taste some.
Then you might be able. Yeah.
Right.
So thank you, Ben, for being a part of this. This is amazing. Guys, thank you for tuning in to the Maverick River podcast. Check out hangar24.com. Right?
Yep.
Hangar24.com. There's restaurants all over Southern California and in Arizona, Lake Havasu. But thanks for tuning in. Please share this. And we're just excited that you're on this adventure with us.
Sick. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.